All right. Now we're going on to the next part of the session, the next episode. So, if anybody's watching from straight over from the previous video, we got ourselves some drinks there. Sounds right. So, for this next part, I think you might guess a little bit of probably what I want to get your opinion on, and probably you have an idea.
I assume it's probably the what you might call the gang shooting of ice in Minneapolis.
Yeah. The Alex Pretti Shooting.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like, okay, like what did we talk about? And that happened. I was like, oh great. I was having a different one than this game.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. It doesn't look good on their side. It's probably one of those things where it doesn't look good, but it's not like it's they entirely screwed up. Is kind of what stuff I've been seeing. It's like it's hard to say that okay, this was this made sense. It's like there's a few things that they screwed up with. But, granted, from what I understand, there was like I think recently they showed more video footage to let you know a fuller context of the situation, because the initial video you just see is that this lady's blowing a whistle at ICE, a group of ICE people, maybe a specific person there, and then about 10 seconds into it, he violently shoves her to the ground, and then another guy comes in to try to help her and to block him. Mm-hmm. And then either that same guy or another guy with him, he pepper sprays the dude. Yeah. Then they all put him to the ground and are, I think, in the process of trying to arrest him or just subdue him. And then someone sees that he has a gun in his back of his pants, and so they grab it. And I guess it was possible someone said that shout out that there was a gun, and then right after that, and right after you see it, that the ICE agent got it, that he was shot a couple of times, and then there was a pause, and then he was shot several times.
Yeah, it was like,
so it just didn't look good in that it looked like they were essentially careless in that situation in that moment. But apparently there was, I guess, more footage that recently came out showing stuff that had happened before then that would suggest that the guy who got killed wasn't as innocent as it looked. Not that should have happened, but just that he was not as innocent as he just wasn't like just an innocent bystander who got shot, that he had actually been causing problems before then.
Yeah, I saw some of those videos where it was several days before that was those incidents of that. Was like he's not being like, oh, he's not the saint as everybody says. We're incident with other ICE, and it would be strange to be like, hey, unless you're specifically going for that guy, to be like, hey, the response was still not, I would say, proper, because if you're like, hey, this guy is going around doing stuff to ICE, one is you need to get like a search warrant for him, and because you're like, this he's causing problems, and if not, and you're just going off of officer's vibe, that's a really bad part part right there to run off of that if that's the case.
Search warrant for what?
It'd be like, hey, that he's not. You could say like he's not protesting peacefully. Like, we should probably see about bringing him in for being arrested.
I don't think you need a search warrant to do
Or
that
no,
stuff.
or just a judicial warrant.
What I'm getting is I don't know that you even need something in the moment, or you even need something prior to that. Well, so from the thing I had seen, I think it was like today or maybe the day before, or yesterday, I had seen that showed, from what I understand, it was like what happened like a few minutes before that was that guy had, for one, you can be protesting on the sidewalks, but you can't be protesting in the street because you're not supposed to be obstructing traffic and stuff like that. And as long as you are not being a disturbance to the peace, then you're okay, which actually causes the whistles to be a questionable thing because that is a disturbance of the peace. But
then you have to go with the argument that every time you protest like that, it's breaking the peace, and then you have a hard line.
It's a problem that they're doing that. It's actually it's something that where they aren't supposed to be doing that. Like from my understanding, there's policy that if you are obstructing even what the ICE agents are doing, then you are being unlawful. And so with them blowing the whistles to inform all these different people that hey, they're here, so go away. They actually aren't supposed to be doing that. But ICE agents have been, from what I understand, they've actually just been allowing them to do that just because they're not trying to. I guess they're not going after them, but those people aren't actually supposed to be doing that. They are actually causing more problems like lawfully than not. But with that guy, he didn't have the whistle though. But from what, at least that's not what I had seen. But he did, from what I understand, he was, I think that those ICE agents kept telling him to go back onto the sidewalk. He kept on going to the street or crossing the street or something like that, being a nuisance. But he was protesting, and the guy, but I guess that they had told him to stay on the sidewalk, and then he was like complaining to them, like, you guys have been in the road, saying something about how they've been in the road, stuff like that. And he says, they just told him that you can be on the sidewalk and do this, but no more than that. And then I think I guess the guy walked over to the lady who was blowing the whistle. Then I guess shoved her, and then that guy went over to them. I'm not entirely sure if that's quite how that happened. It was showing that he had already had interactions with them throughout that day and a little earlier that day, which was showing that he wasn't like he was just some innocent guy who was like who just happened to be in that moment in the bad place, the wrong place, the wrong time, or something like that. But that he had already been causing problems with them and arguing with them and disturbing the situation, like in a way that he's not supposed to be doing. But then whenever they went and pushed her, that he once again came over and was it. Honestly, the way he was handling the situation in general seemed like he wasn't doing the best job he could to calm the situation down, because you have a bunch of guys who are trying to get a job done, and now y'all are interfering with it. And so the way the guy who was, I guess, trying to protect the lady or whatever, it seemed like he just wasn't handling the whole situation the best way he could. Not that the other guys were necessarily doing a great job themselves, but it seemed like there was just a lot of chaos along those lines. Now, another thing I have heard, I have come across, and there's no way of knowing if that would be the situation or not, but I guess it does so happen to be that the gun that guy had on him was it was a model gun that apparently is known for misfiring. And so it was more a question of when the police officer or the federal officer grabbed the gun, did it actually misfire on its own, and people thought the guy shot it, and that's why they shot him. But you don't really know if that's why it happened or not.
Yeah, I've heard that theory of like, was that first shot the officer or the first shot from the gun right there, or if the response was an officer yelling "gun" was the cause.
Right. Yeah, that was the other thing. Because I think it'd be more a question of, since they're yelling "gun," is it telling you that someone's fixing to shoot, or what's happening?
Yeah.
And so they react to that, but that part's unclear of what's going on there. That's where this thing became more confusing than not. What was right?
And the part, even in the confusion there, the person that, like, I can get along with the part that, in the confusion of calling gun right there, but it's still with the choice that was made in that moment was still like not the right choice. And even if you don't make the right choice, and if it was an accident, there are still consequences for you.
Who are you referring to?
So for the officer that first fired the shots, of person declaring gun right there. From the video, it seems the person who shot the gun had oversight of the whole thing. He was shooting in the back. He could see.
Okay, so not the guy who grabbed the gun from.
No, not the guy who grabbed the gun.
Okay.
Which could be. You could also argue that your choice of instruction was very poor right there, and to see if there's a protocol for gun in hand, or he has a gun, like he has it holstered, because that I think is a different topic to be between the person who called gun, who grabbed the gun and said gun.
Yeah, the other issue that I was hearing was that whenever you look at, even though the person was shouting gun, one of the things that you can tell is that all the people, like, he had a bunch of guys surrounding him and trying to subdue him, and it's very possible that whenever guy yelled gun, not everyone saw the other guy grab his gun to let you know that he was disarmed. And so some of them were more focused on trying to subdue him. And the unfortunate thing was that when the guy grabbed the gun from the back of his pants, it didn't seem like he was making sure everyone was aware, here's what I'm doing. He just kind of did it on his own, and that was it. And so if they heard gunshots, then there was no reason for them to think that he would do it, because he didn't have the gun anymore. But the other guy didn't really make it clear to everyone else, I took his gun. At least that's not the way it looked in the video. He just kind of did it, and then all of a sudden you hear gunshots.
Yeah, but even with that, the thing is, the person who was firing the shots was a person who had view of his buddy taking the gun, the view of the person to see that his hands are tied. The person who shot was over the back, the first person who shot. That person had complete view of the situation. I wouldn't say complete, but he had the largest view of the situation.
That's where I think that it's possible that the misfire may have made sense, if that was what would have happened. Yeah. That even though the guy saw that the other guy had the gun, the fact that you heard a gunshot, that maybe the confusion made him think that somehow this guy was still able to do something, so he was trying to respond to it. But that's
the thing, is we don't have is about that gun, because I've heard some people go of the post that they put up is also from a Reddit post of that gun. So the part that they put for the picture was from a Reddit post from a few days before. I cannot verify that, so if anybody is watching or hearing can verify that.
I don't know. I think that there's enough guys who are familiar with firearms who saw it, who could tell it well enough based off of what they had seen, what the gun looked like.
Yeah, but it's going to be hopefully in the investigation that you could see if that gun was fired, and for it, I've heard of a report that of a like a temporary restraining order that they do not destroy or tamper evidence.
Yeah, I mean that you're supposed to. Yeah.
But the one thing that the government is not saying that they're not going to tamper with or destroy is the gun. That seems to be the one thing that's missing in the report.
That's the evidence.
Yeah, the evidence is there. It's like, where is that gun now? That seems to have that the gun that Alex Pretti had seems to have gone missing a bit.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah. So that is the question of because I think that's going to be key of if the gun that was fired was his one, the first shot, right there, of being scared, then that's a different thing, and all. But still, I think the person who had the overlying shot, who had a larger view, could see his hands and could see the gun being removed. Like, had probably could have, in that situation, should have had a better realization of what was going on, to be like, the gun being good.
It was strange what had happened. It didn't make a whole lot of sense why that guy did what he did. I mean, it's possible that there's more going on that we're just not aware of in that moment. I mean, there's a lot of chaos going on, but that part was strange. It seemed like that guy was more aware of stuff, and then he just started shooting. It didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand more if you go for the other agents going, oh, like somebody's shooting, we better do it. But the question is, I think, more of that first officer that shot, and then also the other agents that fired 4 or 5 shots after he was down.
Yeah, that was like I said, that whole thing was pretty strange because the initial shots you heard, like, okay, that'd be enough to put him down, and also you heard like it was like 7 in total, or 7 or 10 in total. Like, why?
Yeah. Look, I mean, for it, you could argue, and I think you've argued before previously, of like doing the multiple shots, but then having like a second or two after all those shots to then shoot again. And you can hear the shots. They're surrounding the guy. He's laying flat on the ground, and then like 4 or 5 other shots happen.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess the other thing I guess I see what this whole thing is still, even though that specific thing happened, it seems like the bigger question has been popping up. Okay, so what does this mean for the whole situation, at least in Minnesota?
So for it, one is, I'm kind of thinking of what the situation was after the Renee Good shooting. Was either more protests come up against it, and so you have a larger group of the population in Minneapolis being like, time to get out, to that I think you probably have that as a response that's going to happen.
But yeah, they have already said that is probably they're pushing that they just leave.
Yeah.
So it's the question: is that the right response?
I think for it, the question is ICE actually doing its job?
Overall?
Yeah.
Or you mean like in Minnesota?
Overall, Minnesota, I can focus on, say, for Minnesota, if it's truly what it's doing.
So the trouble you have is, in honesty, the real problem has to do with the protesters. It's not because okay, so let me be clear. It's not the protesters themselves. It's the ones who are not doing it appropriately, and that's a lot of them. Part of the reason why these things are happening is because there's people who are going beyond what we actually allow for them to do, what the law actually allows for them to do in protests. They're actually they're actually causing a disturbance, and that's one of the big things they're not supposed to do. It's like as long as you're being peaceful, and they're being pretty much anything but peaceful, and that's whenever these things are happening. So more than not, it's the protesters that are in general causing this reaction to happen. If they were to be doing this appropriately, then these things wouldn't be happening. Like for instance, the whistling, the blowing those whistles, by any standards, when you do that, that's a disturbance of the peace. I mean, someone did that out in the streets, someone would, say, hey, you can get fined just for disturbance of the peace in that sense. And the fact that it's happening all around, that's a disturbance of the peace. And so that is not being peaceful about the whole thing. And then they're just, some of them are like blocking streets and all this other stuff. None of that is supposed to be happening during a protest. You're supposed to be, from what I understand, you're not supposed to be in the middle of the street. You're supposed to be on the sidewalks. You can have signs and stuff like that, but you're not supposed to be doing anything that causes anything that would cause a disturbance to everyone else, especially anyone who's not a part of it. And they've been doing that specifically quite a bit. More so I have anger over what's going on, but that has also meant that that it's also causing this stuff to happen.
For it, I would say in some cases when you do a protest, that is part of what is going to happen. You're going out and putting yourself in front of people to being like, here's the point that I'm trying to make, and I'm trying to have you hear it. You might not know about it yet, or you might do it and you might support it, but for it's the protests like that, I don't think our founding fathers would fully support that idea, because I'm looking at the sort of protest that our founding fathers did with Britain right there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the stuff that they did right there, they did protests of, we're going to just destroy all the stamps that you do. We're going to destroy the stuff that you sell. We're going to taunt the soldiers. We're going to disobey their orders.
And yet they made a law that you can't.
No, they made a law that you can.
Not.
Can.
That you cannot. That you can do it peacefully. That is actually what they were doing wasn't peaceful, but it was intentionally not peaceful. But they did make a law that you can protest, but you have to do it peacefully.
I'll have to see kind of where that law is for peaceful protest, because for in the Constitution, the right to protest is right. But it's also the idea that to do it is still, you're going to still cause some disruption to people.
It depends on what kind of disruption you're referring to, probably.
Because in their protests, they tarred people. Tarred and feathered people.
Right, you're talking about with the founding fathers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for it, they had to make it hard for anybody to do business in the way that the British would do.
Well, I mean, now that's in the laws that you cannot do that. You cannot keep people from doing business. And that if you do, you can be arrested for that, from what I understand. And the number of things I think that where they can technically get in trouble for, and they just haven't been getting in trouble for, and instead, other things have been happening.
Yeah. But I would just put it that we've put it into law for it now and said it that's way, but in some sense, that's how protests are supposed to work a bit, is that when you do it, it's going to affect people.
It depends on how you're referring to affect.
So, if you're going to do it, it's going to affect businesses. It's going to
Like keeping people from coming in to businesses?
I would say probably more so of, yeah, kind of. That's what they did, was like those who supported also like paid the British tax. Those people were also their businesses were protested.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the idea that we've put protests of like you have to do it all in this one way is like most of the time in history, these protests, like in the response here, most of the time don't have that sort of level of like, why can't you just be like Martin Luther King Jr., how he did it? That's where all the ideas of people get for the protests right there. And there was still some stuff that you would say that he did, which would be the business of, hey, we're going to go into the restaurant. The African Americans are going to sit in all the seats in all the seats. Would you say that affected business? Was that a peaceful protest?
That they were sitting in all the seats?
Yeah.
It would affect business. It wouldn't like people as long as people were willing to eat and stand up. But
no, they were. Nope.
But aside from that, if they were willing to eat and stand up, I'm sure they could do that. But aside from that, yeah, would it affect business? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the idea that you can, I would say, to have the peaceful protests, that is the great target you want to have. You want it to remain a protest. You might have some of those clashes. What you don't want is to get it into a riot. You want to keep it as a protest like that, not get to a riot.
On here, it's the First Amendment. It says the right of people to peacefully assemble and petition for the. Okay, that's referring. It says in the United States, the right to protest is primarily protected by the First Amendment, which guarantees the right of people to peaceably to assemble and petition the government for a redress of grievances. There are further laws that they've made, obviously. Yeah. Like you need a permit.
Respecting established religion, prohibiting free exercise of it, abridging the freedom of speech or the press, or the right of people to peacefully to assemble, to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So I'm guessing probably the petition of the government for a redress of grievances.
Right. Which is, I guess, where they get the peaceful assemble.
Yeah. Is lack of that to allow us one to gather and one to protest or petition.
Like, so even though how that one ICE agent dealt with the lady who like, he shoved her violently. The one thing I could see, and this has more to do with a reaction, but one thing I could see is because what she was doing, she was blowing a whistle in his face. And so I could see how someone, if they've been dealing with that, and then they finally just like basically snapped, and then they just shoved the person because they're getting tired of it, that's how he reacted. I'm not surprised that happened. I mean, it did like very violent moments. Like, why didn't you just leave her alone? I was like, well, if you've been dealing with that all day, I could see how you just kind of snapped.
Yeah. And I can definitely see the part of it being very annoying to have to deal with it all day. But still, the part where you made the decision to do that is still...
To blow the whistle?
No, for the officer to do that, because by the time you go with a whistle, I'm pretty sure there was might have like a legal case involving people with megaphones.
Is that legal?
There was a legal battle with megaphones and speech, because I would conclude that, and that said that you can't stop them from doing the megaphone.
Mm-hmm.
I would go in the same way that you can't really stop them from doing the whistle.
The trouble with the whistle aspect is that it would interfere with ICE agents, because that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to interfere, and you're not supposed to interfere with them. You like it's like interfering with police. You interfere with what police are doing, you can get in trouble for that. They have the same policy with the ICE agents, and that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to, I mean, granted, whenever she was doing it was a mixture of alerting the people that they were trying to go after that they were there, but she was also doing it she was like purposely, I think, kind of getting in their face, because that's what some of them have been doing. It's like getting in their face and blowing a whistle to annoy them, because they're angry with them. It's like, well, now you're doing it for another purpose. I mean, it's bad enough that you were blowing it to alert everyone, all the people who were there, because you're not supposed to do that. It's twice as bad that now you're doing it just to spite them. So,
but I think that for that, in the spite of them, we'll start to go to another question of like, are they supposed to be there? Because
the ICE agents?
Yeah, because a lot of the stuff for ICE, I would say, is they're now exceeding what their initial duties were to do. Because beforehand for ICE was, if like somebody was crossing the border and then chasing down, that's what the ICE would do. Would chase down as if they cross the border trying to get deeper in.
Well, yeah, but that's not what their only object. That's not only what they are supposed to be doing now. That has changed since Trump has been in office. He gave new policies for them.
Yeah, but
so they haven't really gone overboard with what they're doing. That's actually been the next question with this whole thing is, should they stop or should they go harder?
I want the argument of should stop, because as much as people say of what ICE is supposed to do, go after the hardened criminals, I think that from all the videos I've seen and then the reporting done, that they're not going for that. They're doing a terrible job at it.
It seems like the ones that it seems like overall of what I've come across, the main thing that has made the news is what's going on in Minneapolis. Besides that, like, they're all over the country, and you're not hearing as much about that stuff.
Even about the stuff in Chicago, LA, and all, where where all these other ICE raids have happened,
right?
Of these arrests happening, and all, and then seeing that they're not going after the hardened criminals. Seeing videos of them picking up somebody's grandma as they walk to work, using a child to bait the family out.
How so?
So recently there was in Minneapolis, they took a child from school to bait the parent out of their house. So
'Cause I heard of some ICE agents taking a child and people getting onto them about that. But what I had heard was that what wasn't being said, I guess, was that the father had actually left the child and took off, and so they had to. So ICE agents they couldn't just leave the child there. They had to take him in, and I didn't hear anything about a school, but that they had to take their child and basically figure out what to do with the child because they couldn't just leave the child despite what the father had done.
yeah, and I think for that's a different conversation to have, to be like, okay, like something's going on there, but to be like, oh, well, we're going to go raid the school, grab the kid, and go over to the parents' place because they can't go into the house without a warrant. And so they have the child out there to bring the parents out, the family out.
I haven't heard anything about ICE agents needing warrants to go after people. That's the thing.
They can't go into a house unless they have a warrant.
I could see that. That to some extent, I could see that.
Like for that part, but for every time I hear that they're like, we've got a bad one, I hear 20 more stories of they just grabbed the guy from Walmart who's working there and arrested them, and he had no criminal record. That less than 5% of all people being detained don't have any criminal records. Less than 5% have criminal records. So less than 5% have criminal records. And then more than 50% have legal status to be in the country and work.
I doubt that. I'd question where you got that information. I mean, as far as I understand, it seems like
but I mean, what
people
would you
approve of what's going on?
Well, the question would I be asked of, what happens if those stats were true?
That they were doing that?
Yeah.
That they need to, that the guy in charge needs to figure out what's going on and essentially fix that. Well, I mean, so the other issue is that while that, yes, they did say that just the criminals, like the hardened criminals, I don't actually see an issue with them getting rid of just the criminals who are the like that. I don't think they have to be hardened.
What about those who are American citizens or American and American veterans?
Well, obviously that doesn't make any sense to get rid of them. That's why I say that ones who are actual criminals.
Yeah. So I know of a video in a hearing where it was brought in the hearing of people that were deported, American veterans and citizens that were deported, and brought them via, like, had them stand up, had them do Zoom calls from where they were deported to be like the show that narrative, that the information you have is might actually be false.
I'm not.
Say you're saying of putting the part that they're getting the criminals, the bad ones, to be that the majority of them are, but the part where being confronted in that situation to be like, hey, like, you are doing stuff that's wrong. You're deporting American citizens. You're detaining American citizens. You're deporting American veterans.
All right. What did that do with Zoom call?
So it was at a hearing of the Department of Homeland Security, and they brought like videos of people who have been deported, who were like veterans, and be like, hey, why was this person deported? And kept trying to say that what you're saying is that you're not doing it, but we have the people right here who are through the Zoom call, like to be like to talk
Mm-hmm.
because they're not in the country to be able to be there to be the witnesses because they can't go back in to be the witness to be like you deported me incorrectly.
Right.
And so that was at a Congress hearing.
Okay. I mean, so what was decided about that?
One at that moment was to look at like bringing them back and seeing where they messed up in that part. But the question is of if the numbers are true of what they're doing is
so what you're saying is that there's 95% of the people they're getting rid of are actually supposed to be here.
95% of the people who are being detained, they're not criminals.
And what do you...
And then, but about 50% of the people being detained
Mm-hmm.
are here legally.
Are here illegally?
Legal, like legal.
Right. That so half of them are half the ones that they have detained are here legally.
At least legally. Are here legal. That are, and I'm probably saying it so wrong. It's like in between legal and illegal.
Because I understand that we have a lot that are illegal. So it'd be surprising to see that half of the people they get aren't. If we have a ton that are.
Yeah. And then for that comes to the other question of some may say how illegal or are they? But the question is they've been, I heard on like a Joe Rogan podcast of somebody who came in as practically a baby, lived here for like 20 plus years, joined the army, but didn't know that he wasn't a citizen and then got deported to Mexico.
When he went to the army and found out he wasn't a citizen, he got deported?
No, he served in the military. He was an army vet, and then he got deported.
So the army didn't know he was not a citizen?
Yeah. But he grew up
How does that even make sense?
He had a different status of like a dream. What?
Dream Act?
Maybe the Dream Act, but it was out to see if he didn't know he was a citizen, or he thought he was a citizen, but he served in the army and then got deported after serving as a vet.
I'd be surprised if the army couldn't find out that he wasn't a citizen before they brought him on. I mean, all you need is a birth certificate to know that you're a citizen.
Well,
if he was born here. I mean...
The question is did his parents forge his documents?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, so you yourself believe it.
Right.
And you can probably get away with, in some level with it, but...
So while he was in the military, they found out, or after he was done?
After the military. But
that's interesting.
Yeah.
No, but I guess I would say that I would, in general, question that some of the stats that you have, but I do think that what they're doing is good, because I think that I'll put it this way: I am not surprised at getting the pushback they are, because people have the media has made a big stink over how dare you call anyone illegal or being undocumented. They still should be here. No, they shouldn't be. So there's this whole thing of you should be okay with people who decided to come here illegally, and to get rid of them is basically harmless. and stuff like that, unless they're unless they've done further things that are criminal acts besides just being here. That we shouldn't take issue with that. It's like, well, no, they shouldn't be here. They're not supposed to be here. That it is a criminal act to be here. So them being here each day when they're not supposed to be here is a criminal act. That's why I say that it's not just being a hardened criminal like you do further things like attack people and stuff like that. It's just being here when you're not supposed to be here. And so you're a criminal by definition because you're breaking the law.
And then for that, then the question it comes into the laws that allow them to, you would say, allow them to be the legal status here to transfer. I think that's probably more of what should probably go for right there, instead of the people that are, I would go like, you've got the ones that are here legally.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the ones that are here illegally.
Mm-hmm.
And I say the question is, how long have they been here? And do they have any records? Because otherwise, if you're like, I've been here for 20 years, I've been paying taxes, but now I've been working. It's like, the question right there is, should possibly find a way of making the status legal, but I think that in itself is definitely a question there for myself of, have they actually been serving society? Have they been doing the work that we don't do for work? But then,
have they been doing the work that what?
We don't want to do.
I disagree with that one. I've heard that argument. I don't think that that's true. I think that once they're gone, you can definitely find people who are hurting for a job that will want to do it. And I find that to be a silly argument.
I'd say I would put it as an interesting case study to see how that happens, because I think in the next year or two you might see how that plays out. If less people are out there in like the farms and such that are doing it, because a lot of those people in the farms are most of the time illegal aliens. But
that's because they're cheap.
Because pay them under the counter. But for it, then the question also comes for what reasons exactly are they coming over? Because some would be that you are, like, the place that's your country, there's turmoil there, and so you're, like, well, sometimes that process takes such a long time. And
well, the other issue you run with that is, it doesn't mean that we have to take them in. I mean, it'd be great, but if we can't really handle it right now, it's not exactly something we can deal with. It doesn't mean that we have to bring them in right now. It sounds like one of the more selfish things, but it's not like I guess I'll put it this way: it's not something that they should. What do you call it? It's not. Essentially, they shouldn't just expect that they can do that. We aren't obliged to do that.
But for that, I would put in the situation that if that's the case, if anybody who's suffering under Christian persecution, we're not allowed to. We shouldn't let them come into the country. Because we would say we're making the exception right there for Christians. To be like, oh, you were in Iran and you became a believer and then you started to get persecuted. We would probably say, yeah, bring them over. But just for their faith. But the moment that someone's like, I have gangs in my back door threatening to kill me, like, the moment we have that, we're like, bummer for you. We're pick and choosing exactly our crisis.
But we can do that.
We can. But is it actually a good thing to do that? To be like, safety right now comes from those who are believers.
Mm-hmm. Watching out for our fellow believers.
Yeah. But if we also go for the people who are crying out, I think that is very unchristlike.
We are supposed to be watching out for fellow believers first. That is something that is in Scripture. It's first. I think it's like first family, then fellow believers, then the world that we're supposed to be watching out for. I do think that it'd be good to help out those who are,
But it's
hurting.
also
But
says for like the hungry and needy, like who, like Jesus calls us to serve them as well. And those.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm saying that we are definitely supposed to take care of fellow believers first.
I mean, I need to see about that because for it, I can see where we're trying to help out, but if we're at that moment where we go, hey, like in this situation, I feel like the part there where we're like, come in and find refuge and you're saying no to others is not fully, that's not Christ-like, because we could say here we have the opportunity to witness and all to them here, but we also we are not one thing is as Christians, we are expected to face persecution.
Okay.
So that's one thing to be like.
We're also, as Christians, expected to help our fellow Christians out when they're dealing with persecution.
Mm-hmm. But for it, I still say that even though we are supposed to, we're failing at the part where we are supposed to be a light of the world, and that is not a light of the world action right there.
I don't think we've been failing at that. I think we've actually been doing a very good job with that. The U.S. has. We've been taking in a lot of people. And to some extent it has been hurting us because other people will sneak in, take it. That's more so what the issue is, that the people who will sneak in, take advantage. Does that mean that they won't do that with the people who are persecuted Christians? It doesn't necessarily mean that. Now, granted, if there's a better way to help them than to take them in, it would be preferable.
Yeah, it would be preferable, but I also go with it that we're still, as we take them in, we're not doing a good job at it.
It seems like we're doing a very good job of it.
I'm thinking more of in the church sense of witnessing to them. Is I feel like in different background, when they come here, I know when you can say that we're doing a good job of bringing them in, and I would say we are doing a good job bringing them in, but I'm saying we're doing a bad job at, once they're here, helping them to adapt to life in America. And then when they get here, they isolate. And then we get more so situations there once those groups isolate.
I mean, they isolate, but that's also usually by choice, I think.
Yeah. And I'd say choice, but also for ourselves doing that, not trying to bring them more in. You can see that later on with generations. I was doing for ministry for a Spanish church, talking about people with immigration of like, the first generation, second generation, 2.5 generation, and 3 generation, where the third generation will normally break that habit, while the 2.5 and second generation will be slow to breaking that off of those habits of isolation. But
I mean, the other thing I would, of what you had mentioned before, of those who have been here for like 20 years, I guess who have worked and stuff like that. My thinking with that is, you were here for 20 years and you didn't become a citizen. Shame on you. You should have, you've had 20 years. You should have looked into taking care of that. If stuff, you've always had that risk of something happening, technically, and now something is now basically someone decided to do something about it, because we've been experiencing some bad stuff, and so you had 20 years to deal with this. You really should have taken care of this. It was irresponsible of you not to.
I think for it, yes, definitely irresponsible. I would be put into more of, okay, time for you to do it. Like you're going to take the steps towards it now.
Do it out.
But give
This
but and then give with the steps of the failure to do it in that part with that threat. Even though I don't like the idea, I can go with that being a more reasonable solution right there to get the message across to them that you need to sign up for at least some sort of registration. But I would also go with that most people who say illegal aliens, where you've pointed out that it's a loaded word for these people that you say aren't here legally, but most of the time they are documented.
You talk about the loopholes that they've created to make them
that they have some sort of they're going to court, they have something that says that they're here. There's documentations that they are here, and that they have some contact with the government.
So then why are they usually called undocumented?
Because for it, one of the two things is that we like to throw names around. One is for we say undocumented because they don't fit a certain criteria of either, hey, they're here on a visa, they have a green card, they're on asylum. There are other ways in there that they is being documented, but you don't have those main ways that people are being documented, which people seem to be like, they're doing that for their documentation. I don't like it. So I'm going to label as undocumented. And some people will go for the illegal aliens because they definitely did cross and then got there to be caught and then put into the system to being regulated. Not regulated, but to be monitored. So some people will be they'll cross the border, get 100 miles in, and then turn themselves into law enforcement. Because then there's a process there of being papers for documentations. They have court dates to fill out and court dates to be there.
So they came in the unlawful way to do it?
Yeah, you can say that. I would go more for that, but then they started to comply with all that's being required of them. they might not be able to get like the visa, the asylum, the green card, but they have this other status right there. Allows them to do certain limited work.
I've heard of that. I'm not so sure it makes them. It doesn't make them legal. I don't think. Not truly. Not like actual legal. Like this. First, I understand is like because the thing that you could do to make yourself legal is like you get a green card. I guess like a visa or becoming a resident.
Mm-hmm. But
there's also citizenship.
Yeah. But I would also put that even trying to do that, the hardship. I know of people being like they're waiting there at the border with Mexico, and then they're like the gangs are coming around and saying, "Well, time for a shooting contest." And those people, you have the gangs doing two different things. One is being paid to get people across, and the other gangs are threatening them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're practically in a situation where they're going to be in trouble either way with the gangs. One leads to death, one leads to having the legal status, as you would call it.
Right.
And so many people probably...
So at that point, the issue comes down to their own country is not handling things correctly.
Yeah.
And so now they're expecting us to be benevolent, basically. Which I mean is not a bad thing, but there's a difference between being benevolent and now demanding benevolence from the person. That's where it's like, really, we did this out of the goodness of our heart. Now you're making us act like we're cruel because we are finally putting restrictions on it because we've allowed things to go haywire.
Yeah. And for that, I would say in certain cases, we have to look probably for a different discussion of other times of just, did we get involved in their country to cause that problem? And that would be...
Not really. Not in Mexico. Not like that.
I would go...
You're talking about the letting guns in, I guess.
I mean, I would say that would probably be a different argument right there of we practically arm the gangs in Mexico because for it we are...
Just kill them all.
we buy the drugs and we pay them in guns.
Yeah, we shouldn't have done that.
No, it's not. That's more of the American citizens of practically tricking young teenagers. Have you heard of this part? Tricking young people?
American citizens tricking young people?
No, so practically gangs would be like, hey, can you deliver this? You're going to spring break over down there in Cancun. Can you take this package for me?
I haven't heard about that.
It's more common that practically there's a gun bought most of the time at an NRA convention.
Oh, I thought you meant they were taking drugs.
So somebody has would be like, I can get you guns into the U.S. down into Mexico if you send drugs up. So the cartels will send the drugs up, and then the person will send the guns down, and they would.
I see. Okay.
Use American citizens to.
And so that's something that my understanding is that we're now trying to put a stop to.
Which will probably be a good thing. That would probably be because that was I know like a tariff thing that happened that was talk where it's like stop sending the drugs in, and there in Mexico was like stop sending the guns in.
Okay, no problem. I have no problems with that.
Yeah. But other parts of like you have Honduras, Guatemala, where in the past we've overthrown the governments there and put up our own leaders. That has caused turmoil there to say like, is that our fault?
that we put in our own leaders.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have interfered. We probably shouldn't have. I don't even know why we got involved, to be honest. I don't remember.
Businesses.
I'm sure I've heard about it, but
Bananas.
Banana Republic.
That's one word to describe it, or other things where we're like, we're not exactly liking how you're dealing with us. Some of those times where like you have a Soviet insurrection here. We're just going to eliminate the Soviets and your leader and install our own one right there. And so that just causes practically the turmoil there to allow gangs and such to formulate.
Did we install it?
So
Or did the person find or did someone find a vacuum and fill it?
At times we've definitely been like, okay, it looks like we're filling it. Somebody was in the vacuum and filled it, but we're like, this guy, he's pro-US. He'll do business with us. And so, so we have to deal with that. But I think we should end this soon.
We should.
Yeah. And save probably other discussions later I have of like, oh, we were wanting to send ice to Italy.
We can figure out why you're wrong later. It's okay.
Yeah. And other things of the behavior of ice might not be as good as good. All right. So thank you all for watching to Sacred Assumptions. If you want to, leave a comment, a like, or a follow, whatever platform you're on, so that you know the next time we're on, or want to make a comment of what we should talk about. So until next time, thank you.
Adios.